The journey toward a purposeful brand is hard work and fraught with misled travelers. But being clear about who you are is at the very center of branding. Welcome to Brandifesto, hosted by Gardner Design. We've helped hundreds of clients refocus and get straight to the point. In each episode, our team will dispel common branding fears and share firsthand experiences so you can find your own brand voice, avoid critical missteps, and build a brand worth standing for.
In branding, occasionally you get into a project that is just kind of like it's candy, it's cake, it's pie, it's all the stuff that you ever really wanted in that sweet shop. And I've got to tell you that this is going to be one of my favorite conversations because it's about the Sedgwick County Zoo. And I'd like you to welcome my very dear friend Jenica King, who's the director of marketing communications for the Sedgwick County Zoo. And I'm so glad that we're going to do this
I'm
finally.
excited. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah,
Mm.
as we first came to know each other, and through the Sedgwick County Zoo, which is, by the way, for anybody outside this market, it's in Wichita. And I think, people know where Wichita is, but Sedgwick County, that's a little bit of an anomaly because people are going, well, where's Sedgwick County? You want to
Yeah.
kind of set that up a little bit?
Our zoo is very lucky to have a public-private partnership. So Sedgwick County owns the zoo,
Yeah.
and that was thanks to a group of very civic-minded individuals who wanted a place to conserve wildlife and educate the public and connect our community with these amazing animals that call the zoo home. So Sedgwick County was able to procure land for the zoo back in the
Yeah.
60s. The
Yeah,
zoo
I
opened
hate
in
to admit, I remember when they were procuring
You
land and
remember?
it was way out there. I mean, it was miles away, and now it's in the heart of the city.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they had the foresight to procure way more land than we actually needed.
Yeah.
So we are not facing some of the difficulties that some zoos are in being landlocked. We've got quite a bit of room to grow still, so that's hopefully the
And
next
and
phase.
and not only is it just an amazing zoo, do I recall it is the number one visited attraction in the state of Kansas, or
It
what's
is.
that stat?
The official stat is we are the number one outdoor family tourist attraction in the state of Kansas.
Okay, and that puts the Cocker Ball of Twine, the giant ball of twine, Cocker City, way down on the list.
It does,
Yeah.
which is a very exciting attraction.
No, it really
But
isn't. But it does have wildlife because I understand there are rats that live inside of the
oh,
ball of
okay,
twine.
so it's
So
doing
yeah,
its own
yeah, it
conservation.
it is, it
Okay, good.
is. So here's the thing that I loved about this project is that it is, obviously so well attended. And it is a beloved institution throughout Kansas, but that this idea of going in and doing a rebrand on something that is so beloved is something that always is I don't it's gotta feel a little bit uncomfortable for the person who says, "I have permission to pull the trigger."
Certainly. Yeah, and I was given that permission within about 6 months of starting my job there at the zoo, so I was fairly new to it.
Why?
Because we were coming up on our 50th birthday.
Yep.
So we started this process and launched the new brand in 2019, and 2021 was the zoo's 50th birthday. And so that's sort of, obviously a big milestone for
Yep.
the zoo
Yep.
and an opportunity to take a look at the master plan, the strategic plan, the mission statement, the vision statement, and make sure that we're sort of maintaining a great trajectory
Yep.
and maintaining those standards that we hold ourselves
And it
to.
and as I recall, you guys, at the time were just introducing, that master plan, which really expanded enormously. I mean, it c they constructed a new entrance for the zoo. They rethought about how to bring people in. They brought in a train to the zoo. Do you want to talk about some of the other plans and things that kind of
Yeah.
came out of that?
So, along with our 50th birthday celebration, we introduced phase one of this master plan and raised $15.1 million in a capital
Wow.
campaign.
Wow.
And there was an animal aspect to that. We opened the Slawson Family Asian Big Cat
Oh,
Trek
yeah.
within that phase. But the rest of that phase was really geared toward the visitor
Yeah.
experience, really elevating that visitor experience, giving people more things to do while they come to the zoo. And so, we started with a new entry complex,
Yep. Yep.
which really
Beautiful, by the
puts
way.
a
Yeah.
beautiful face to the
Yeah, it
zoo,
does.
and lets you know that you're coming to an organization that does great work, takes themselves seriously, is a wonderful place to see animals and be entertained. But we're also a serious business of conservation and protecting and preserving wildlife.
I'm glad you just brought up the word conservation because I know that Jeff, who was the director of the zoo at the time, was very. I mean, that was one of his real missions was the idea of introducing conservation back into the zoo,
Of course.
and frankly, as I recall, as we started into development of branding, that was one of our major focuses. The things that we really knew that we had to introduce as
Yes.
part of this new brand.
Yes, and conservation has always been something that the zoo has done and
Yeah.
been very involved with ever since the beginning, and all AZA zoos are involved with. But it's not a story that we really had a chance to tell,
Yeah.
and so that was really the main focus
Yeah.
of this strategic master plan. The rebrand is really finding a way to tell that story.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought the word story up because when you think about branding, it is about storytelling, so much of it. And sometimes people have heard a story so many times that they just kind of become snowblind to it. They don't listen to it. And I think it gave us that opportunity to really engage not only the public but to engage the staff there at the zoo, as well as the board of directors and all of these different parties in determining what was the story that we wanted to tell.
Mhm. And I think that was one of my biggest surprises, during this whole process of rebranding was, and it was a great surprise,
Yeah.
was just how invested your team is in the story,
Yeah.
is figuring out what that story is. And that really was a lot of the whole process and took
Yeah.
really the most amount of time was trying to figure out what is the story. But the dedication to that, I think, really
It,
helped put my mind at ease that we were going someplace
well,
good.
and the fact that you folks were as invested in it as you were, when you think about, and we certainly did, what other zoos have done as far as their branding and their identity and their logos go, you tend to see a lot of the same thing repeated over and over again, and you don't necessarily feel like there's a story. Either they've got a key animal that they focus in on,
Mhm.
or they take the word zoo and they plug a couple of animal faces in the middle of the O's. But there are just these repeated antics that go on over and over again, but they don't necessarily tell a story. And as part of trying to determine what that story is, we talked to a lot of people.
Mhm.
As I recall, we did probably close to 1,000 intercept interviews with people that were either members of the zoo
Mhm. Mhm.
or people that were there at the zoo. Do you
Right.
recall some of this process?
Yeah, and that was just the external
Yeah,
survey. We
yeah,
also surveyed many or most of our staff,
yeah.
and we had a really good involvement rate in that survey. And I think that's really what helped the staff embrace this rebrand process. And I think that's why we got such amazing results and
Yeah.
such a robust story to go along with our new brand.
So when you're talking about that survey and you're starting to engage the community in it, there's a little bit of conversation that starts to go on in the community about what's going on at the zoo and what are they going to do. So it kind of reactivates a population that had kind of been quiet about the zoo and gets them to thinking. And obviously, with your master plan introduction and the likes, I mean, they could tell there was something going on, but before any of this started, we had kind of an inauspicious beginning to this project because really you didn't come to us about the branding initially.
That's true.
What you come to us
That's
for?
true. Came to you for a new website,
Yeah.
and you laughed at me along the way, I remember.
Oh, I take that
Yeah,
back.
we laughed together,
Okay.
because you said, "We're kind of doing this backwards.
Yeah.
If you wanna rebrand, we need to decide the brand." We're
Yeah.
almost, developing your brand with this new website
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
introducing it that way, but I think it worked out perfectly for
Yeah.
us.
It did. And I've got to tell you, Jay Walter, our director of digital here, um, didn't even blink when he was told that he was going to be establishing what that general look was going to be going into this,
Mhm.
and that it was going to have to be something that the brand would have to work into, and did a really great job of, we started to lay down color and texture and a lot of the palette, the visual vocabulary that hangs with an identity
Mhm.
before we really knew what that identity was. So it boxed us in a little bit, but not too much. And when we started into the actual development of that key element, the logo, I'm going to reach into my pocket because I happen to have Dandy.
There's Dandy.
Yeah, and this is where we're ultimately going with this thing is we went into this process and we started looking at all these other zoos and what they had done. There were certain things that came out of that survey that we wanted to focus in on. Conservation was obviously one of them. But one of the things that was really important was us to identify regionality
Mhm.
within this.
Mhm. So Dandy here,
Yeah.
he's sort of just grown into that name. Someone said, "Oh, he's a
That's right. We didn't
flower.
name him
He's the
Dandy.
shape of a
That's what
flower.
about, yeah.
He's a dandelion. How cute
Yeah,
is that? Let's
yeah.
call him Dandy." And it
Yep.
just sort of grew on its own, and now everyone at the zoo calls him Dandy.
Got
That's
it.
just what he is.
Yep.
The file name on our logo in our brand elements
It's
folder is a
Dandy
dandy.
Lion. Okay.
So he's the dandy lion. But when we first introduced him, and when, we came here for the concept,
Yeah.
he was introduced to us as a Kansas lion because he takes the shape of a sunflower,
Yeah.
which is the state flower,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
But it feels very Kansas. But, lions aren't from Kansas. And so it just really beautifully ties in the story of the conservation work that we do here affects the world.
Yeah.
And, we're all connected.
I I loved a little insight that you shared with me. We had a chance to talk yesterday um, about a member or delegation that went down to, was it Panama?
Yes,
Am
and
I
that was the
recalling
president of
this?
our zoo.
Oh,
The president of
yeah.
our zoo.
I'll
Mhm.
give you Dandy.
Okay, here's Dandy. The president of our zoo, Scott Newland,
Yeah.
he was in Panama on a conservation trip,
Right.
and we were in that moment kind of in the middle of going viral on social media because of a chimpanzee that was born.
I recall this. Yep.
Um, Yes, and so we had just recently gained quite a large
Yeah.
international
Oh,
audience. We
yeah.
had 3.2 billion people saw this viral
No
video.
kidding.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. So
Wow.
it
Wow.
was exciting. So the president of our zoo is wearing all of his zoo
Regalia.
regalia,
Yeah.
yes, and his hat has a dandy right on his forehead,
Right.
and, he went into just a little restaurant in Panama, and the area that they were staying didn't have very many options, so it was a tiny little restaurant, and the waitress came up and she said, "Oh my gosh, you're from that zoo." So, this
I love
this
this
little
story. Yeah.
guy, this little dandy has international recognizability,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
he's pretty special to
You
us, and
you
we love
you
him.
you never know what, kind of effect, a brand or an identity is necessarily going to have, do you?
Exactly.
And something like that really drives it home. And as you start to think about what we actually did, with this logo, I mean, you made the point to us that there will always be a lion exhibit at the Sedgwick
Yes.
County Zoo. And, it's easy for you to kinda go, "Okay, the lion, king of the jungle, and there's all this lore associated with lions." but being able to identify him and that Kansas sunflower and combine the two of them together really gave us that kind of perfect mashup, if you will, that starts to tell a story. And one of the things that came out of some of the interviews is we identify clients as we are working on their brand based off of different personality traits that we try and convey that people build an allegiance to through brand. And there was a certain level of excitement associated with yours, but there was also this little hair of ruggedness that was in there that we needed to convey. And the texture
Mhm.
that happens in here is not just texture that happens inside, we call that mesotent, but not just inside the logo, but it's part of that language
Mhm.
that carries across to everything at the zoo.
Mhm.
You guys use it in your literature. We use it on the website, which we're going to get back to in just a second. But one of the things that is unique about the Sedgwick County Zoo is you're obviously, the director of their marketing department, but you've got a team of designers yourself that have to work with this.
Yes, of course. And so that was one thing that I was very, very pleased with was how easy that transition was made for us. So you guys came up with this beautiful visual style book for us and then handed that off with all of the assets that we needed. And then, I used to be a marketing team of one person. And so I work with some other design
Yeah.
teams, here and there. Um, and then I've now been able to hire two more people
Yeah.
on my team.
Yeah.
So now I have a marketing team of three people. And then there's, a graphics team
Sure.
that handles all the signage and the wayfinding and
And they
the
do an
the
amazing
map.
job, by the way.
And
Yeah.
they have been able to come in and sit down with Jay and, really seamlessly be able to take over that kind of
So
house style.
So you said something in there that made triggered a thought, which was you said, I used to be a marketing team of one.
Yes.
And when you start to think about who's going to administer a brand, who's going to be the steward of a brand, a lot of times it is just one person. And and in those situations, if that person has all the knowledge, I guess that's okay for that person because they're going to know if it's on or off brand.
Mhm,
But when you have a team,
mhm,
then you have to document in some way those assets so that everybody knows how to use them because
mhm.
everybody's going to have a different opinion
Right.
about how they might end up getting used.
Yeah.
Has that been valuable?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's definitely valuable, especially since, I work with, different agencies on different projects, from our annual advertising
Right.
campaigns or, marketing materials or the membership cards. And, we also have an operations partner that handles all of the admissions and retail and food service at the zoo. And so they have their own design team. But, someone coming to the zoo doesn't know that, the admissions manager is getting a paycheck from a different company than the zoo,
Yep.
and they have, a design team that now has our style guide. And so the ticket portal of the website is not managed by me.
Yep.
Like, we have nothing to do with it, but it at least has the same colors and fonts and textures on that so that it provides kind of a seamless experience.
Now
So
I've got to throw some credit at Jay Walter, and I'm always glad to throw as much credit as I can
he
in his
deserves
direction.
this
Yeah.
could just be a Jay Walter fan podcast
It
as far
it
as I'm
it pretty
concerned.
much could. Um, and what's odd is I happen to know that Jay is sitting on the
He's
other side of
listening.
this
Yeah.
wall, and
And
he's
he's like,
listening to this
oh,
entire
stop
but
talking about me, you
but,
guys.
one of the things that, Jay really invested, heavily into was the website, for the zoo, and, I know that he builds a passion into just about everything that he undertakes, but in particular, he has a particular love, for this project,
And it
and
shows.
yeah, it does, doesn't it? And you get into the website, and it is so much more than just a website. Do you want to talk about how that kind of grew and the things that have come out of it?
That was such a fun project, and
Yeah.
it's never ending, and I
Yeah.
think that's the most exciting thing is
Jay
that
loves that,
there's
by the way.
always
Yeah.
he loves that it's never ending, he's got
Yeah.
job security, he's
Well,
always
no,
got
it's
something to
not
do.
job secure. Well, maybe it is. I don't know, but I will tell you that I can tell from his passion that he especially loves working
Yeah,
on that. So
yeah, and you can tell in the website, it's beautiful. We've had, you know, comments from everyone, everyone you talk to, especially what's been really fun is at Association of Zoos and
yeah,
Aquariums conferences, and you meet people in other marketing departments at other zoos, and they've seen your website and they love your website and they ask who made your website. And so that's been really exciting for me. But
Jay, can
it's
you hear
yeah.
this? Can you? No. Okay.
He
Yeah.
he knows, and I told
Okay.
him, I said, "Just don't give them a better website than you give us. Like,
Okay.
ours has to still
Okay.
be the best one."
So I'm going to jump to a different topic here for just a second, which is when you go through any kind of a rebrand, one of the first things that occurs to you is, boy, am I going to get in trouble? Is the public going to respond poorly to this? Are we going to have trolls? Are we going? Do you kind of want to talk about any apprehension that you may have had, or the results of that, or
Yeah, there's certainly a natural level of apprehension, just, worried that not everyone is going to love Dandy as much as I loved Dandy. But, the zoo has been through several different logos or brands, but, we never really until this process had a full brand in, the whole sense
more
of
than
the
just a
word.
logo,
Yes,
something that
yeah.
really carried
We
the entire
have
piece
we have
through.
had
Yeah,
several different logos.
right.
The logo that we had
Uh-huh.
was not, I mean, we had equity in it, but it wasn't, loved as much as Dandy is loved, So I think we felt okay that the public would be fine.
Yeah.
There were a few people within the zoo that, we were a little bit worried that some of the employees might say, "Oh, well, we're focusing on a mammal
Yeah,
here with
sure.
the lion, and what about a bird? What about a snake?" And so there's always a little bit of that, a little bit of fear that
Should we have done a snake?
maybe I don't,
No,
I don't think.
I know Jeff
What
look
would you?
okay.
There's what would you call him? There's
Yeah.
no,
Sly? I don't know. Yeah.
a snake doesn't fit well in the sunflower
No,
shape either.
it
So
really doesn't.
yeah, yeah. But so there was a little bit of apprehension with that, but what I think really smoothed that
Yeah.
process was the fact that there was a whole story. There was research. There was an opportunity for all of the staff to give input. There's a reason, a very specific, lengthy reason why we chose the lion and why he's the Kansas lion and why he's, Dandy and why he looks the way he does. And he has a personality that represents pride and conservation and the wildlife, and that's what we embody at the zoo. And
I couldn't say that better. No.
wonderful.
No, really. And, when I look back on this project and I look forward on this project, because I know that it's an ongoing effort that, it's not just a, well, here's your logo,
Yeah.
but it is a partnership. And we appreciate having that partnership with you. And, as you continue to grow as an entity, I will tell you that I have had we do hundreds of identities and lots of brands, but there's probably been no one brand that has had such broad appeal to people that they've all just loved it. So you gave us the opportunity to knock something out of the park, and
And you delivered.
yeah,
You delivered. I will say that, when I decided to call you guys and say I need a new website, that was the best decision of my career.
you already
So
okay. We got that. Thank you.
thank
I
you.
appreciate it.